Hello, welcome back. Season 2 of the Think Rugby podcast. Now, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen your own face, Andy. How are you getting on? How was your time off?
Yeah, no, I've been doing pretty well, Zav. It's been like the hottest summer ever in Shetland, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good until I start getting burnt up. But no, apart from that, it's been quite enjoyable not seeing your face on the other side of the screen for the last few weeks.
I'm glad to hear it, of course. Much the same, been busy working away, but on holiday as it happens. Nice rainy west coast of Scotland, but the show must go on. So, right, what's been happening? A lot's been happening. In particular, the British and Irish Lions, which has been the main talking point. Now, we can kind of summarise what's been going on as of yet. Up until now, we've had the first test going on as well, with all the other warm-up games, which have been some good, some not so good. So we'll kind of just digest it all, I guess. Yeah, not kind of in great detail, but generally, then kind of emphasise on the game that just kind of happened just Saturday past. Okay then, so the Lions. If you were to give in a couple of words or one sentence, how would you describe the Lions tour as of yet?
Honestly, pretty fucking dull.
Like the weather here. No, I can't really disagree, to be honest. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel that kind of buzz is what you usually get with the British and Irish Lions. I don't know if it's because, well, initially a lot of it was just a kind of England / Ireland select with a couple of folk kind of like dropped in between, i.e. Finn Russell, Tupelo, Hugh Jones and that. But I really don't know. And then there's just the one Welsh guy one, Jack Morgan, now because Thomas Williams is away with injury. So it just seems a little bit just, I don't quite know, it just feels it's lost that spark with less Welsh players in that team, in my opinion. But at the same time, it's been very good and really refreshing to see some Scottish lads getting great opportunities and really fighting for their spot, especially coming to the second test, which will be a big one. We've got a few Scottish guys in that first test team: Russell, Tupelo, and Hugh Jones. I think they took their chance, kind of, more than others, should I say. I think Russell, I mean, ever since the start, he would have been the favourite to be 10 for the Test series, and he's kind of shown why. Let's be honest, he's the most experienced one there, with the best skill set, and he's absolutely streaks above anyone else that can fill into that position. But before all that, though, before the first test, we had all the warm-up games, and I think it was a great kind of opportunity to see certain partnerships. Especially, I was very excited to see Gibson Park and the Finn Russell partnership. Like, see what Finn Russell can do with no offence to any other scrum half in the Scottish rugby setup, but one of the top 3 or more class scrum halves in the world, and I think it went off like a house on fire. It's been absolutely sublime. Some said at the weekend though that Gibson Park, because the reason Russell played so well, which I kind of had to disagree with and kind of laugh. This is kind of the Finn Russell agenda parade, I think, kind of trying to bang a drum, but I wouldn't really think too much into that. What do you think of the warm-up test, Andy? Like, how did they go? Like, in your opinion? For me, it was a mixed kind of bag. Some, like I say, some good, some shit. But on you go.
I will be honest, some of them I was just like, just warm-up tests, and then if I was busy or something, then I would be like, I'm not too disappointed about missing out on them. However, there is something pretty good at the whole, you're saying you may not enjoying the tour. I like the whole waking up, coffee in hand, or something stronger if you're not into coffee or whatever at that time in the morning, and tuning into the games. That's what I enjoyed when we started the podcast last year with the Rugby Championship. Some of the games was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, ideal, let's wake up, watch some rugby, chill out. Some of the games, yeah, I think the Western Force was the first one I watched, and then I was just like, whatever. I watched the Brumbies game, and think that's pretty much been it. I haven't really.
Do you watch the Argentina game?
Oh yes, I watched the Argentina game. Yeah, to be honest, that's about the only difficult game that the Lions have faced, and that's including their first test against the Wallabies. That was an interesting encounter.
Aye, no, for sure. It's funny, like, because every single game the Lions have seemed to dominate. They've been on top. Well, pardon me, for the most part at least. If you go on to the first test against Australia, it really was like, how would I put it? The scoreline kind of flattered Australia in a way. 19 points to 27 full time in Brisbane, I believe. It really did flatter them, and they just didn't really have much kind of. I feel they had very little proper shape or any way to kind of counter the British and Irish Lions defence. A couple of tries were, I wouldn't say fluky, but for example, Mark Jogson's try, which was a box kick, which Evie Gardner managed to kind of dart away. That's just like single person errors. That's not a collective kind of team try. Whereas on the other hand, the Lions have actually been playing some pretty silky stuff at certain moments, especially in the midfield. I want to really highlight the midfield, non-biased, but between Russell, Tuipulotu, and Hugh Jones, they've been really trying to cook up that midfield. And they had a good first half against Australia. Second half, once Russell and Genge went off, if I remember right, the game kind of slowed down. And I mean, you can't just blame two players coming off to completely change a game, but it definitely certainly noticed the shift in the shifting. I wouldn't say this mentality, but just kind of like flow the game after that. So shame to see, because you would think again, out of the choice of four tier one nations, should have enough kind of personality and ability and leadership to kind of see through that and get the game won a lot sooner, if you like. Or to be fair, the game was kind of won, but just not very convincingly, as maybe we would have thought or would be suggested prior to the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the sake of fairness and balance, I think it's fair to say that Hugh Jones maybe just got a bit excited in that first half, and when that try of his, I would say rightfully got disallowed.
Aye.
I felt that there was such a momentum swing, and something that I think has split Lions fans is usually in a competitive game of rugby, when a swing happens, it's the other team usually goes and bags a couple of. I mean, we're Scotland fans. We're accustomed to the likes of France and Ireland. Right, here's a swing in our direction. We're going to
Yeah.
obliterate the other team. And I think that's maybe why the pair of us have maybe not really enjoyed it so much, because yes, Australia got the swing of the momentum. They didn't really do much with it. Yes, they got a try, but it was nothing special. You compare it to 4 years ago against South Africa, and you're like, it's like a game of chess. It's like, who's going to blink first, who's going to make the first mistake, and then that's the thing. And I think it really does just show how Australia, okay, they are maybe sixth ranked in the world right now, but they are there by default. Scotland have plummeted to eighth after a very disappointing loss away to Fiji. We can come on to that later. And Los Pumas, Argentina, they are further down after a convincing defeat, a couple of defeats to England. So, yeah, and they're missing a couple of star players, and they're very much. Joe Schmidt is there to steady the ship. They're not there to set the world alight.
Yeah.
It's clear as day that the Lions are going to win 3-0 or certainly 2-1. Like, that's not a question in my mind. They will win the series, but how much can Australia really push them and try and make it competitive, which is very tragic when you consider that the Lions Tour is meant to be the pinnacle of the elites, the best of the best, playing against the best in the Southern Hemisphere, and this is what we're seeing.
It's got the potential to be the first 3-0 series win for, fuck knows how many years. Because even in 2013, it was a 2-1 series, if my memory serves me correct. But it'd be awful. For me, it'd be awful if it's a 3-0 clean sweep, because that's just, like you say, it's a pinnacle of rugby. But that's just the position we're in. I kind of blame Joe Schmidt in a way, though. Not fully, just like partly. Not just because his team lost, but his selections. Like, when you're playing, like you say, at the pinnacle of rugby, like kind of in your career, Why would you go play, and as much as he's a good player, Lina at 10, when you had, yes, okay, Noah Learcio, who's still only 25, 26, got a lot to learn, but far more experience than Lina. Why picking Lina at 10 when you had James O'Connor who could have played there? Ben Donaldson can play at 10 as well. You could have recalled Bernard Foley as well, even though I know he's away playing in Japan, but you could have brought in some experienced players to kind of steady the ship and maybe just play a bit more kind of conservative rugby the time being until maybe Lucio, who I don't think will be back at all this tour, but just play some conservative rugby. You've got to change, just maybe try not play the same kind of system which an inexperienced 10 such as Lina has been not thrown into, but he's had to kind of take the horns and try to do what he can. Same again, you've got Tate McDermott on the bench. I think Tate McDermott should be starting for Australia. The impact that he made when he came on. Did he score a try? I believe he scored a try. But he's just far more significant player than any other kind of Australian halfback or that there is available just now. You need that kind of leadership and quality that's starting. Like we say, they should. What's his face? Joe Smith really should be starting. More experienced guys. Injuries haven't helped. I know that. Like I say, I think there was Tupou, Valentini. He was a massive miss as well. But the back row department for Australia shouldn't be the biggest concern. For me, it's the halfback payment, which basically orchestrates your whole team. 9 and 10, and I think that's where they're kind of going wrong. If I was to put it down to one main thing, it would be that.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. I mean, the quality was on show at the weekend, and that's where I really got skun at, was around about the hour mark, because thereafter it really became really scrappy. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but you compare it to the Test series 4 years ago against South Africa, that level of rugby would nowhere, like the Lions and the Springboks would never ever play that scrappy level of rugby.
Nope.
And it really, it's just like, yeah, the Lions will win, but it's not going to be like a great tour. To be honest, like for me, the best thing so far about this tour, in my opinion, other than seeing all the Scottish guys there, has been the series that they've been releasing on YouTube every Monday night.
Oh yeah.
That's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed watching that, but yeah, there's not much else to say really.
Last thing I like to ask, because there are plenty of positives. I know we've maybe had a bit of a downer on that, but there are plenty of positives. Who's been your top 3 players, or even top one, or who are your best player? But I'll maybe try top 3. Who's been your top 3 players so far this tour, or not just maybe who's been the best, but who's kind of surprised you the most in a good way?
Oh. Before the weekend, I would have said Tom Curry didn't deserve to be starting at 7, but I will, like, they may have given the man of the match to Tag Byrne, who again has been very similar, not the best in the warm-up games, but
These Test match animals.
they, like, Tom Curry, if he didn't get substituted off, he for me would have been man of the match. They gave it to Byrne because he played the full game.
Yeah.
So you've got them two, and then I'm minded to say Jack Morgan, the amount of game time he's played and the intensity, the physicality, him and Scott Cummins both have really, they may not have started off all that great, but certainly towards the end of the warm-up games, as you would call it, they really set like the world on fire. I would say they played really, really good rugby, and I think both have been very unfortunate not to be picked for the Test 15 or 23 there. Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with you. But to be fair, I think they are playing their way into the Test match team. I mean, Cummins and Morgan are both playing against the Pacifica team on Tuesday or Wednesday. Tuesday, tomorrow, as of time of recording. So they have the opportunity to still shine, and like that's what Andy Farrell said. This is the last chance for some players that maybe just on the fence to really showcase what they can do. For me, Cummins has got to be one of them. that Farwell's got to be looking at. I know strength and depth in the second row department is so strong, but I think there's the value he adds to the line-outs. And look, he's even managed to grab himself a cheeky try, which doesn't happen very often for Scott Cummins. So fair play to him. He's kind of shown what he can do when he's playing with all world-class players. Els Genge, I think, has had an absolute stormer of a tournament so far. Do you notice he's put on, 13 kilos, is it? Or something like that? Maybe a bit more. He's put on a couple of stone anyway, at the expense of him being a lot slower, but he doesn't care because he's now dominating scrums a lot better. And he says he's feeling better for it in a rugby sense.
But that's what you want your props to be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you want them to be a bit more mobile in this day and age, but I think of my props, I want them just to dominate the scrum. That's all I want them to do.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You can't go wrong with it unless you're gifted with both. But it's tricky. For me, you get off with it more at loose head. In my opinion, being a bit more dynamic. Tight head, not so much. I've got to be as strong as an ox. But Genge is a loose head, to be fair to him. But like proofs in the pudding there, his scrimmages came on so much. Ever since he's just got a bit more beef and strength and size about him. So Genge would be for me. Cummins. I want to say Jack Morgan, but everybody could probably be saying his name just now. Here we go. I'm not jumping the bandwagon, but I have been kind of impressed with Henry Pollock, his performances for the age he is, for the age and the height and the kind of pressure around him. I think he's doing not too bad.
No, it's remarkable he is on a Lions tour.
Up to debate whether or not he should be there, 100%. But they always like to take a young boy like the. I'm not.
Rather, let me rephrase so that the English fans don't go at me in the comments. What I meant was, it is remarkable for somebody of his age to be that good, to be in the position where he is good enough, deemed good enough, to go and perform that well on a Lions tour. I don't mean it's remarkable that he's there. I mean it's remarkable how good he is for his age.
Well, thank you for clearing it up, because I can't lie, I did think you were slagging him a little bit. That was a close one. Fair enough. Right, before we kind of cause any more argument or piss anyone off, we should maybe move on to our next topic. What we're going to do, Wales or Scotland first, or both?
I think we should go for wonderful Wales, who, fair play to them. I don't know about you, but I was a bit, I did enjoy seeing them win against Japan in the second test, because it would have been heartbreakingly tragic to see them lose, and you're just like, they're not going to win any of their games in the autumn.
I think it's one of the longest losing streaks, so very close anyway. 18 games lost, 19 on the 19th attempt. They've finally managed to get a win, but they actually deserved it as well. They did alright. Second time of trying against Japan, but look, they've done it.
If ever there was a head coach that was going to lose to Wales on that long losing run, it was 100% going to be Eddie Jones.
Yeah, good old pal Eddie, of course. Oh yes, he loves breaking records, that's for sure. But but to be fair, they did win the first time Japan, and it always gives both teams an advantage, I guess, having played the team once. But look, Wales did deserve to do it. I'm glad, because I don't like seeing like a home nation, or like a UK based nation doing terribly. Unless I'm not going to say that. I don't like to see them doing terribly, especially the state affairs are in just now, and especially now they've managed to appoint now a former Scottish rugby defence coach as their own head coach, which, I mean, he is Welsh himself, so it makes complete sense. But I'm absolutely gutted, because I welcomed him as one of our own in that Scottish management setup under Gregor Townsend. I think Steve Tandy was an absolute. Well, look what he's done. In terms of Scotland's defence, look what he's done. He's almost transformed it. Not overnight, took a long time, but from where we were at to where we're at now, it's, I mean, amazing. Hats off, Steve Tandy. And as gutted as I am, I think it's probably the right time for him to kind of move on, because I think how long can he be at that quality and be second fiddle to somebody that in our opinions, you shouldn't be second fiddle too.
Yeah, 100%. I always think with Steve Tandy and his defensive kind of coaching and how well it's came out is, I think it was 2019 he joined up with Scotland, and
Yeah,
I always think of last year, so the 2024 Six Nations when Scotland went away to Ireland. Attackingly that's up for debate, but defensively they were very solid,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they were still in the fight, and I was there, and I still remember Hugh Jones breaking James Lowe's ankles right at the end.
Oh
Brilliant.
yes, of course. That game finished like 12-22 or something. There was maybe
It wasn't even as much as that, but yeah, it was a very, very close game, and Scotland really showed up defensively.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, especially at the Aviva. What do you make more about Wales? What do you make of the rumour or the potential of them going into, well, folding one team and going into only two clubs for the whole Wales? Two clubs or three clubs? Sorry.
Well, they have really done a great job at pissing off their own fans. It's just like, right, we've finally managed to win our game after 21 long months. What are we going to do? Yeah, let's put out a statement and say, yeah, we're in a few years, by 2027, we're going to potentially go down from 4 clubs to 3, possibly 2, depending on how the finances go. And you're
Crazy.
like, oh, come on.
It's awful.
And they were just like, oh, tune into tune into our Twitter feed at this time on Thursday or whatever. It's like, no, we don't want to hear anything else. And then they'll load here's our new kit for the upcoming season. You're just like, yeah, you boys cannot read a room, can you?
In terms of the kit, they maybe try to flash a shiny new toy to try and deter from the statement they just kind of gave regarding the potential of losing a team or even two teams. I think that is ridiculous. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. I know Scotland manage with just our two teams. However, I mean,
Scotland is not Wales.
participation wise, in Scotland is far less, and any all the good players just go to those teams anyway. In Wales, you need that kind of competition, especially when you've got competition from English teams as well. There's a lot of Welsh guys or Welsh like folk that kind of can choose between the two nations. They go over to likes of Bristol, likes of Gloucester, likes of even anywhere really, and they've got the ability to do that if they can. Yeah. So I think it's really important to keep these clubs, even though Newport aren't in terms of like professional level aren't that great, and either of any of the teams really. You can maybe make an exception for Scarlets. I think they did the best this like last season. It was a Scarlets. They did not too bad, but at the end of the day, the whole of Welsh rugby, I think it just needs a whole new reset. Not a reset in terms of like removing teams, but just a whole new reset, completely rebrand themselves. They've got Steve Tandy at the helm in terms of international scene. Get a whole new kind of reset, new kind of blueprint, way of playing. Get it flooded into the clubs, flooded into the academies, and see what you can do. Obviously, it's a long term plan, like a massive long term plan. But you've got to do something. Give something a shot. You've maybe got to.
Yeah.
Sorry, on you go.
No, well, I'll let you finish rather.
I was going to say they've probably got to bite the bullet and kind of scrap off this bloody 25 cap rule. I know they've reduced it from 50 to 25 caps. I think it's the only way they're going to manage to keep the players. And then once they're in a position like the All Blacks, for example, where you can say, oh, you have got like, well, they're a bit more extreme because you've got to play New Zealand to play for New Zealand. But then once you're in that kind of position of being back up there, top 5 in the world, then you can start implementing a bit more kind of firmer laws, firmer rules. When you're in the state they are, it's impossible.
Yeah, but if they are going to have their funding cut, how can, like, say, a Reece Zammit, for lack of a better example, you've got the next Lewis Reece Zammit coming up and through the ranks.
Uh,
If you have a contract for however much a year and you're offered double to go and play for an English club and you've won, what, one game in the last 3 years kind of thing, why would you want to stay? You know, don't get me started on the cap rule. I think it's a nonsense for Wales in the position that they're in right now. But yeah, I mean, it's one of many things, and I just wonder, like they've come out and said, yes, we are not going to say how long for exactly the contract is, which I think is a very clever move because they're just like, yes, Steve Tandy is our man until the World Cup in 2027.
Yeah.
Let's just see how things go between now and then because it's not like they're going to win all that much games. Ironically, it'll probably be against Scotland. But it's not like they're going to be favourites to be winning, I don't know, 5 or 6 out of the next 18 games. You know, they're not going to do much better than that.
No, they'll have that. They'll have that like new manager bounce, as you call it. Yeah, I feel Autumn Nations series will be very interesting, but I think the Six Nations they'll win one game. I'm sure. If the Sublime, if they win two, but I think for them again, just get back on track slowly but surely, narrow the gap, narrow the deficit in losses, score more tries, concede less, and try to get a win, and build from there. Bonus points, see how much better you can go. That's the short-term goal. Long-term goal, let's not even speak about that. In terms of the club thing, I really don't know what to say. All I can say is I know I've got a rough idea which two clubs would be probably going under.
Yep.
Well, who do you think the second club would be? I'm thinking maybe geographically more than anything else.
Well, they're probably going to keep Cardiff because they had to bail them out, and they'll probably keep the Dragons. So it makes you think likely be the Ospreys and the Scarlets that they'll get rid of. But you have a lot of heritage with those two clubs.
Huge heritage. I mean, looks as the kind of players that like, especially the Scarlets. I mean, the Quinn brothers. You could go on for ages about them. Pretty sure Phil Bennett, who's one of the greatest Welsh rugby players of all time. Phil Bennett. If I was to describe him, not that I ever watched him, but I've seen highlights and that. He was off the 70s and 80s. He was the Finn Russell of the 70s. That's how I would describe Phil Bennett. Yeah, being perfectly honest, absolute legend in the game. Look, you've got so much history. Even the Ospreys. The only thing I'm a bit miffed about is if you're going to keep the Dragons, they aren't like literally just beside, well, more or less beside Cardiff, whereas Scarlets in Llanelli and also Ospreys in Swansea, they are like a bit more western. So why would you get rid of both of them when a lot of talent comes from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending cycle of Welsh rugby of they're just going from bad to what. I could not believe they were just like, and not like I'm disappointed. Like I am genuinely shocked. They have openly said we may need to go down to 2 to 3 from not just 3 teams but potentially 2, and basically copy what Scotland do and have 2 professional teams and have like an academy. That. To me, I think there's too much money going to bureaucrats' pockets. However, well, that's just my opinion. But yeah, I do feel for the Welsh fans in that one. I mean, it's your rivals or whatever in Six Nations, but there's nothing worse than an organisation that is grossly mismanaging your sport kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what kind of money Tandy's on. I know nobody knows, but I know you would probably don't know either. But I'm just curious. Like, I wonder how much he's actually on.
Well, they would have the WRU will have had to pay out what was left in his contract before he went from Scotland to Wales, and he won't be on pennies. I'm minded to say 150 to 200k a year he'd be on at Wales, but that's just speculation.
That's a massive drop. Like, if you're thinking Townsend on 500,000, is he not?
Yeah, someone in and around that region, but
Maybe
I think
getting,
that's why they couldn't get the likes of a Franco Smith or whatever. They went for Steve Tandy because it's like, we need somebody cheap. He's Welsh. It's a big challenge or whatever, but he's got the emotional connection. So yeah, he'll go for it. I wonder how long that'll last.
from a
Yeah.
selfish point of view, hopefully not too long. But anyway, back on to
Enough about
Scotland.
Wales.
Yeah, back on to Scotland. So, I'll let you. I mean, wait, where would you begin with Scotland? The tour, the very anticlimactic tour that they've had to the Pacific, or do you want to start even sooner, later than that?
Yeah, well, I mean, to a degree, I do think Scotland were on a hiding to nothing going out to Fiji with a depleted squad, and Fiji having more or less a fully fit squad and still expecting to come away with a result. Considering the timing and the world ranking points that are at stake, I think it was very foolish.
Yeah,
But at the same time, credit to them for going and doing it. Nobody else has hardly done it, I think, in the professional era. Certainly, maybe one tour at the most. Townsend, that's his second tour as Scotland head coach on a tour like that.
yeah,
I mean, we're on about growing the game and everything. I think Scotland's done its part in the last 2 years. Was the tour a success? No. You lost to Fiji and we're down to 8th in the world rankings. Okay, you bet Samoa. Fucking big whoop. It was in a neutral venue in New Zealand, and you bet a Maori team whilst the real stars were playing France. So forgive me if I'm not too enthusiastic about how the SRU, or rather Scotland rather, have spent their summer.
I think I'll say less. It's not been great. It's not been great. The positives I'm going to take out of the Scotland kind of tour is we're finding a little bit more depth, inexperience, but we're giving them the valuable game time. If several players actually, if in particular that I kind of like to see, I've liked seeing Fergus Buck playing at 10. I think he shows a lot of promise. Still a young lad. Plays for Saracens, of course. He has been keeping Hardy Hastings out of the team, especially for that Samoa game. I thought Townsend would have went a bit more safe. Part of me started Hastings, but no, went with Fergus Buck. Jamie Dobie getting valuable minutes. What a player, Jamie Dobie, by the way. I mean, for being, what is he, like maybe third or fourth choice scrum half for Scotland just now? But also the fact he can then just hop onto the wing. Just, at international level, just managed to casually hop onto the wing and still play just as good. Absolutely superb. And that's, you only see that a couple of times, and not many players can do that. And the only other players I can really think that would, okay, DuPont, the obvious one that probably could do it, but like Gavant Williams for South Africa, he'd be one, and maybe Cobus Reinach, South Africa. I'd say they'd be the only two that can really do it. George Horn as well has done it before, but again, Jamie Dobie I feel does it best out of all those players in terms of consistency, and he also does a really good job when, like the Horns, kind of stuck in those breakdowns. He's just naturally sliding in just to keep that ball kind of alive and keep it going. So I'm really impressed with Jamie Dobie, and also, like I say, also Fergus Buck. So a young but also exciting half-back partnership between them two. I love Stafford McDowell. I think if he's, it's just mental that you've got two Pilotu, Hugh Jones, and McDowell all at the same club, and one of them's going to miss out on a game day. Again, that just shows the kind of depth Scotland's got. There are flaws, of course there are. I mean, you still had Jamie Ritchie and Rovi Darge in there because they were unlucky to miss out on the Lions tour, in my opinion. So and Ferguson was back as well. So the back row was kind of sorted out. Second row, well, like I mentioned, Gregor Brown, he's now away in the Lions tour, so but he was another one that's kind of played himself into it. You've also got Cummins, who is away in the Lions tour, so you had the likes of Gilchrist and that there as well. You had some front row, still an issue if you've got Sutherland away. as he's now in Lions setup again for the second time, which is great to see. Schuman's away, Ferguson's away, well, injured now. So it kind of leaves you with Miller Mills. You're going to have to help me on these players, Andy, as well. You've got Miller Mills, Richardson, another young player that's coming. Richardson, he's been doing not too bad. But then, other than that, like being Scottish, with supporters and Scottish guys yourself, you do kind of struggle to list off names. Whereas when you think of like teams like Ireland and England, you can just list an absolute like abundance of them off the top of your head that would be good enough to start. So the front row still is room for improvement for Scotland. Back three, Patterson got some minutes in. I think Patterson was alright. Kyle Stein just as consistent as ever. And who else was in the back three? Who got the opportunity, if you like, who wouldn't usually? Kyle Rowe got more minutes.
It was Aaron Reid and Kyle. Oh.
Kyle Rowe. Aaron Reid, what a player though. Well, he plays for Sale, and you look at his kind of like try accolade that he's got for Sale Sharks, and it's unreal. He probably got individual try of the season last season for the Gallagher Premiership, and he brought that form in my opinion, brought that form in for the internationals. Obviously, not a one-man team. It wasn't enough to kind of get close to Fiji at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, so that has been the end of episode 1 in our new season 2. Anyway, folks, I have done my forfeit. Be sure to check out our channel where you'll see my forfeit from last season, from the Guess Who forfeit. The reserve has been so busy he hasn't found the time whilst he's been chasing after some sheep and well, he says it was a woman, but I think it's sheep in the Scottish Highlands. But yeah, be sure to check out all of our social media in the description below. Follow us on X, TikTok, and yeah, hit the subscribe button and we'll see you in the next one.